Howdy, gang! Welcome back to the Great Muppet Fandom Panel. It's been a hot minute, hasn't it? We haven't done a show in nearly a year. And do you see what happens to the world when there isn't a fandom panel around? Do you see what becomes of Sesame Street and the Muppets when we're not here to keep them on the old straight and narrow? I think everything's going to get much better now that we've returned. I'm your host, JD Hansel, and if you're new to the show, this is a ToughPigs podcast. And most ToughPigs podcasts or articles zoom in on just one topic, but this show's a little different. The Great Muppet Fandom Panel is our big picture overview of the state of the Muppets. We get a bunch of big Muppet fans together to share their thoughts on the current affairs of the Muppets. The difference this year is that it's going to be a little less rigid in its approach. It's more laid back. It's looser. Remember last year when Matt Vogel brought back Below the Frame as a simpler show, saying it was going to be a much looser version of the podcast, and he gave us a terrific season? Well, as a Muppet fan on the internet, I have an obligation to hold on to the false belief that anything Matt Vogel can do, I could probably pull off just as well. It hasn't been true for anyone yet, but telling yourself the lie is just part of being a fan. And speaking of fans, let's introduce the panelists. First up, the only return guest on this show today. He is our resident news guy and video maker on the ToughPigs team. All of us watching and wishing we'd find it. I've noticed you're Shane Keating.
Whoa, I'm the only veteran.
Next up, it's the newest member of our team. He joined us last year to host the ToughPigs podcast, the Fantastic Miss Piggy podcast, and even though he's still kind of a newbie around here, we're glad to have him on the show. And at no time will we be stooping to any cheap 3D Danny Horn.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I've been wishing I could be on the Fandom Panel for a long time, so I'm really, really glad that I'm here in the one where you're kind of giving up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here for this one, too.
There is something that there's something that I want to just say straight up front.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things, I don't know if people know this, but like a lot of the things that happened in 2024 were like disappointing and bad.
Yes, I should have clarified at the top that the themes for this episode are doom and gloom. It's going to be really unfun to talk about. That's why this is the drudgery and tedium edition of the Great Muppet Fandom Panel.
Yeah, and so I don't want to spend the first time I ever appeared on the Fandom Panel being all like cynical and sarcastic about everything. So today I am only going to discuss the official Muppets crochet amigurumi book.
All right.
Worthy.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine because we have other panelists here to cover the rest.
Yep.
Next up, another newer tough pig. You know her from her interviews with the likes of Carmen Osbar and Raleigh Cruson, along with her reviews and reports. All these other people think I'm talking to them, but I'm really just talking to Drake Lucas.
Hello, I'm Drake. I guess I'm here to talk about the drudgery. I'm all in.
Excellent.
Don't forget the tedium.
Last but not least, a newer member of the ToughPigs team who's written terrific articles, and they're one of the moderators of our Discord server. Green can be big like a mountain, or important like Katilyn Miller.
I'm literally turning green with envy, because I'm an amphibian, you see.
And also, they have green literally on their hands today.
Does this not happen to other people?
No, what did you say caused your hands to be green today?
This is fountain pen ink.
Okay.
Totally normal thing.
All right, so now that you all understand the visual, you understand the audio joke, and we are free to proceed with the podcast.
Well, I'm wearing a big funny hat. Don't forget that. The people must know.
It's the
Sorry.
biggest, funniest hat I've ever seen.
Hilarious.
Shane is wearing a huge funny hat. Every time I look away and turn back, it looks a little bit bigger than it was the last time I looked. And
I didn't think you could pull off plaid cowboy hat, but man, it is you.
You've heard of a 10-gallon hat? This one's at least 50.
Each one of these light bulbs in it could power a small city.
Drake, I don't know how you're getting those red sneakers to hang from your ears, but it's really silly.
It's just who I am. You just ears, big red sneakers.
We're starting here. So the big news lately that has been on all of our minds has been the Sesame Street, not really news, but rather an article from a real newspaper just diving deep into precisely the things that we've been frustrated about with Sesame Street for a long time. And somehow, as we got to chatting about this in preparation for this episode, it quickly led to some of these panelists deciding they needed to watch Cookie Monster's Bake Sale 2. Is that right? Would someone like to tell me what this even is? I don't think I'd heard of it.
Well, Cookie Monster's Bake Sale Back to School. It came out this summer. It is not the official Muppet Crochet amigurumi book. It is a special. I think it's like 45 minutes long, and I don't
Well,
understand.
not even. It's 22.
Yeah,
Just
it's
felt
really,
like
it
it.
felt like that.
Felt
It's
like 2
like
hours,
It
20
feels
minutes long.
so long.
it's like a documentary about libraries made for nobody, presenting like a fake fundraiser, which is a competition between two teams that you cannot tell apart.
Yep.
And it's hosted by Cookie Monster, who every time he does something slightly whimsical, the human children are forced to fake laugh.
They underline the fact, like he says explicitly, that his goal in this special is to be funny, is to get giggles.
Yeah.
And that amounts to him picking up a giant fake mustache, and then everyone has to laugh.
They say.
It's I can't speak to it too much because I only watched the first 2 hours of it, which then I found out were truly 4 minutes. I thought I was like a third of the way through. I'd made it 4 minutes in before I was like, I can't watch anymore. It's so dull. But
I don't know who it's for. I can't
that was
figure
my
that
question.
out.
That was
Yeah.
my question the whole time. Is like, wait, it's too childish to be for adults, but there's no way this is for children. They couldn't have thought it was entertainment for children, right?
Well, now we have someone here who showed it to a child.
Oh,
Yeah, to be fair, actually, my daughter enjoyed it. I thought it was
There
going
you
to
go.
be more of a bake-off cooking show, which I thought was that's kind of interesting. They had like, Master Chef Junior, lots of kids are into that. So I thought that's more where we were going. I didn't know it was like Double Dare style, jump in a pit and find fake cookies. But I have to say, my daughter was like rooting for one of the teams. I don't know how. Two
How did she
competitions.
choose?
And then at the end, she was like, that was great. I mean, in a, sort of like that was 20 minutes of my life. I'm moving on to the next thing. So,
sure.
but she was kept more entertained, I would say, than I was for 20 minutes and left and went on with their life. So I wouldn't say it was geared toward her, but it was benign show for a child. I don't think they got much out of it.
Sure.
I think it was confusing to the parents.
She doesn't yet feel the pull of time on her soul that she needs those 20 minutes back yet.
There are
Someday.
so many 20 minutes that she has thrown away so far in her life. So yeah, not quite that full of time. But she was definitely not jumping up and down with wild enthusiasm every time someone said something. I'm not sure how they got the kids to keep up with that.
Well, Drake, what did you think of it, though?
I think I'm on Danny's side there. I just couldn't figure out why it happened. The people who like how Sesame Street's a set. So like, where did all the customers show up from? And and then they just showed a bunch of kids eating food. And I know this goes into a different topic later, but I have to say, I got sad knowing that, I saw it after the Post article came out, but like seeing Snuffy and Big Bird come on set, and that's when the kids got amazingly excited and all like over. And I was like, there's something special to those characters. And I know that's a separate conversation, but that's one thing that kind of stuck out to me from watching it.
That stuck out to me too. The fact that so it's presented as like a reality show, like you would see on like Food Network or HGTV or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then setting it in a world where the characters are fake. Reality shows are fake in general.
Mhm.
That's just a fact. And then putting that into a thing that is also fake is very confusing because, like Drake said, who are these people? Why are they? This is a closed set. They would have to come.
Right.
They're not wandering into someone's neighborhood. They are wandering into a building, a very security-laden building.
I think part of why we're even asking that question of a show where impossible and magical and inexplicable things happen on this street all the time is the fact that it looks so much more like a set in this production than in most things where they like it's very overlit. The show is usually overlit now, I would say, but
looks awful.
Yeah.
The characters are so washed out.
Yeah, everything's washed out. When you watch Sesame Street now, it's all just a bunch of bright, flashy colors, and you cannot tell the very colorful Muppets apart from the set behind them. It's rough. Here, the brightness is turned up even more. It feels cheap. It feels fake. They cut to interviews that look more like they were filmed for a morning show than for a reality show. But then what happens? You cut over to a pool and out of the bubbles pops Felix the chicken. And I threw my fist in the air with glee, cheering on Felix the chicken. I'm just always happy when Felix exists.
Yeah, he rules.
Also, Yvette Nicole Brown is in it,
Oh, yeah.
which confirms that she will clearly be in anything.
She is the main host, I would say, more so than Cookie
Yes.
Monster.
Yeah.
But Cookie Monster has been given the job of providing all of the entertainment. And it's really... How do I put this?
Bad.
What does it mean? What does it mean
We're going to spend more than 22 minutes talking about this.
when a character as funny as Cookie Monster, as reliably funny as Cookie Monster,
Right.
cannot be funny in a production that has made that his main job?
Hmm. He explains that to the audience. I am here specifically to make people laugh and to
Well-
earn as many laughs as I can.
So if this is a set upon a set, perhaps
Right.
they scripted it on top of the script, and so there was no room for any Cookie Monster to be funny. He could only read lines.
It feels that way.
So what amigurumi are these little crocheted dolls.
Yeah.
And in this book, it
Mhm.
teaches you how to make like a really wide variety, and they're very cute and they're photographed really well. There's like Kermit and Piggy and
Right.
Pepe.
Yeah,
and
I was thinking
Phenomenon
about
the
that.
Snouts.
And I was especially thinking about Sesame Street and how they have a whole cast of characters that are really funny and entertaining.
They
And
did.
it's still struggling to overcome just the nature of the show. And it's tough because I don't want to be down on Sesame Street all the time. And I feel like we are often at ToughPigs giving it a hard time for just not focusing primarily on being funny. We have ranted about this so much, and last year, I guess not last year, but the year before last year, I wrote an article saying, "Hey, yeah, sure, it's not funny anymore, but you're going to be okay. It's not for us. You know, what they're doing is sometimes more important than the funny stuff." But then reading the Washington Post article, it was like, by gosh, there isn't going to be a show that is worth putting up with despite its lack of entertainment value if this is the situation. If the situation is this dire and if they're not really able to change course in a positive and helpful way. That's my feeling. Danny, you look eager to speak.
He wants to get back to the amigurumis already.
Oh, that's why
He's
you're eager
very
to speak.
angry that they haven't come out with a companion book for knitting as well. Like,
Yeah.
he's stuck with crochet, and what are the knitters supposed to do? Danny, please go.
Oh man, it turns out that there's actually negative things to say even about the official Muppets amigurumi book. The one thing that really struck me that they did not cover in the Washington Post article was there was all this stuff about how like kids don't know Bert and Ernie, and they're gonna focus on Elmo and Abby Stabby and Grover and Cookie Monster going forward. And it occurred to me that they just added like 10 new characters to the show
Mhm.
in the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Gabrielle, Tamir, Wes, Elijah,
You're doing really well.
Ji Young.
Joey. Oh, Ji Young, yeah, but also Joey, who likes
Neve.
spaghetti, and Neve, obviously, and Neve. And so apparently that didn't go well. That didn't
Yeah.
draw the children in.
So season 46, when they moved to HBO and they cut down to a half hour, that's when they first said, we're going to reduce the cast. Like that was their first attempt. And that was Elmo, Abby, Cookie, Grover, Big Bird, Oscar, and kind of Rosita.
Okay.
And then it was after that that's like, oh, now Abby has a stepbrother. Oh,
Right.
and then they need a mom and dad. And then Elmo's mom and dad are appearing more and more. And then all these other new characters started showing up.
Can I just say, I hate the families. I just... Muppets should not have families on screen. They should have families in books. The families belong in books. When there are families on... this is specifically a problem on Sesame Street, where the premise of the show for decades was these neighbors are coming together as a community to raise an orphan 6-year-old child. And it's about how it takes a village. And now it doesn't take a village or a street or a neighborhood, as it were, because all of these frickin' Muppets have boring parents that make the show more boring and complicate the dynamic, and I think do make way more characters than any kid can be expected to remember.
And they also gave up very interesting human characters to be replaced by these boring. I loved having, like, you know, Maria and Luis be Big Bird's parents, essentially, or Gordon be everybody. You know, like, they had interesting characters on there that were filling a role that could be parental without needing to be like specific parents. And they were interesting, and they were real in their own way. I mean, even Cheesy Bob, he was authentically cheesy, you know, like there was just this authenticity to him that I really like. And I liked that they played that kind of role, in the fact that, you know, the human characters that are around now are not necessarily in those specific roles. Maybe Alan, but I think they gave up something really authentic and good to kind of replace it with these other ideas of what a family is.
Well, and even beyond nostalgia, I think the inclusion of real humans is important too. There's a whole movement, at least in the book world, called We Need Diverse Books. Like there's a serious crisis of, you know, picture books being published with, first of all, white characters, and then second, after white characters, are animal characters. And then after that, a huge percentage down, then you have, you know, other identities and racial populations. So having actual humans on the show is just as important as also saying that, yes, these children have families, they have parents who look after them, but like kids need to see real humans doing real human things in order to actually back up all of the curriculum that they're supposedly, you know, trying to input into all of these episodes. It doesn't hit as hard or as personally to kids when it's a Muppet. Yes, they're paying more attention when there's a fuzzy, funny thing on the screen.
Right.
But if there's, you know, you're not going to see Louie walking down the street. You can't ask Louie for help.
Right. Right. I do like how it's not just scratch that. I recognize the importance of the original version of the show feeling like a real street in some ways with real people, because that makes the show about how on your street, in your neighborhood, when you're just with the people that you live with, and indeed the people that you meet each day, there might be something magic there. The thought that you can just turn a corner in New York on a real street and you might see a giant yellow bird. That is a unique approach to fantasy that is rooted in the show's original belief that learning can happen anywhere. Learning can happen in these urban communities, in these diverse communities who are often overlooked and not given the same educational opportunities. Now that the show looks like a magic garden, more than it looks like a street, at the very least, it looks like it's been gentrified to the extreme.
Yeah.
You start to feel like the show has kind of lost sight of its original premise and its original function.
Yeah, I love, I mean, they still have the type of trash cans that Oscar lives in New York. And when I would walk down the street with my daughter when we were little, she would still like, maybe he's in that trash can, maybe he's in that, you know, she'd like try to beg on the trash cans. I'm like, exactly.
That's how I was.
Yeah, they're seeing this, you know, they're seeing the real world around them in a show in which anything can happen. I love that way of looking at the show.
Thank you for adding a positive element to my crabby rant. I really genuinely appreciate it.
I just want to talk for a second also about what the curriculum is these days. Because as far as I could tell from the Washington Post, they are now entirely focusing on feelings.
For the season.
But haven't they done that for a few seasons lately?
It feels like the kindness, mindfulness.
Yeah. I think kindness has been the big thing.
And I don't hate it in theory. I really do. Well, because true, like if kids know their letters and numbers, then they know their letters and numbers, and so why not focus on the thing that seems to be a crisis, which is just how are people doing right now?
Yeah.
That feels like it's the crisis of the moment, and we just genuinely need nicer, better, more thoughtful, caring, considerate people in the world as fast as possible. And so I can very much appreciate Sesame Street trying to deal with that. On the other hand, I would argue that Sesame Street has spent over 50 years just trying to produce an America that is not racist and that is well educated. And if those are the goals, and
Give it time.
Right, that's the
Another
thing.
50
It's like,
years, it could
how
work.
much time do you need? And we can say, like, you can't expect that much from a show, but, like, it's the thing that every child is watching in infancy. There are no creators of propaganda who are wishing for something better than the situation Sesame Street was in for those first several decades. You get to just beam this right into babies' brains. And they had, for a few decades there, very little competition for the baby brains. Here's cartoons teaching you whatever we want over and over and over again for an hour every morning.
I
we're
would
still
suggest
here.
I would suggest that it worked for a long time, and now Sesame Street is not popular anymore, and so kids are not watching Sesame Street anymore, and that's why we are where we are.
But it's not popular. I mean, kids are still watching Sesame Street.
I feel like in the Washington Post article, they had a big black heading that said Sesame Street is not popular.
But all the kids I'm around, they do know the characters. They do. I mean, Sesame Place, like if you go to Sesame Place, it's not just the parents walking around nostalgic. All the kids are losing their minds over. They're waiting in line for Ernie and Bert. They're waiting in line for Cookie Monster. They're into the shows. And when you walk down the street here, there's still every third kid has some character or is wearing some shirt.
Well, and they're not like the pop culture juggernauts that you see. Like they're not the PJ Masks. They don't have merchandise on every single toy shelf, which I think is part of what they are counting as popularity, not just, recognizability and viewership. It's that, it isn't becoming children's whole thing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I go to the local Barnes and Noble, and there will be like there's like two small shelves of Sesame Street stuff in like a bigger bookcase. But then you'll have like these big end caps that are full of like the pigeon, Mo Willems pigeon guy, or the cat with the big flat head. You know what I'm
You
talking
can
about?
just be making things up right now, and I
Not
would
the
just
cat
have
in the
to
hat,
nod
but
in agreement.
He's like a
Have to say
dark.
yes.
He's like a navy blue, and he's got a big
Yes,
football-shaped head.
Pete the cat.
Pete the cat, is that?
Why is his head flat? He's just two-dimensional because he's on a book.
Well, the plush are not. They're three-dimensional.
Right,
Okay.
so it's not
We may
flat.
have lost the plot just a little bit here,
Yeah,
which
that's
I
where we are.
expected would happen.
Yeah, we're talking Pete the cat, the new crochet book that Danny was talking about.
But I mean, I
These are all
think
good
the
things.
idea is like they're not non-existent. I mean, they
Yes.
were whatever.
Yes.
They were 14th overall and like
Yeah,
10th
that's right.
for
Whatever
the 2
that
to 3
means.
age or whatever. And there are so many shows out there and a lot of really crappy kids shows out there. So I mean, I feel as if like they have lost from where they were. I think there's a lot of issues obviously with it, but I don't think the idea is like no kid is watching it at all and no kid recognizes that.
Right.
When my daughter was in I don't know, it was either Grouch or Big Bird onesie and I sent her to school, the kids couldn't even talk and they could all point at that and got immediately excited and knew the name. So I feel like the branding is still out there. It's not like they've disappeared, but obviously they've slipped from where they were.
Well, I
Which
think-
doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the show. That just means like the branding is, still strong.
And I think that fixation that the article picked out, where they put the episode in front of a test audience and they were, asking the kids if they recognized the characters and if they understood the conflict that was going on. And, I think most of them did, but they were just so disappointed with the results. It seems as if Sesame is trying to teach to a test, like that all the kids who watch it need to be able to fill out a Scantron and
Yep.
identify all of these things. And it's just like at a certain point, you have to trust that your audience is going to get it, and that if they're not going to get it, at least they'll come back for more later. So they're kind of focusing too much on the lesson and not enough on the making sure they come back for more later.
Right. Yeah. The secret to Sesame Street, I think, has always been repetition, which is the secret of so much of teaching and marketing and anything that you want people to remember. And they focus on a lot of repetition within episodes. And I think you're right that they just then test at the end of one episode, has that made the kid learn the one lesson? Whereas if you can get repeat viewings from the kids coming back again and again and again, and they pick up lessons over and over again across the show, then I would expect that to do a lot more. But yeah, you're teaching the test point. You mentioned that days ago or weeks ago, whenever it was. It has stuck with me ever since. I love that insight.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the ToughPigs Discord, and because it's something that a lot of public school teachers have to deal with in order to get funding, a
Right.
certain percentage of the kids have to pass the standardized tests. And honestly, I can see the mentality with Sesame there. If they're dependent on funding from sources who are looking only at their numbers and whether they're getting certain viewership, then they're like, that's what they're trying to get. And for some reason, they think that proving that kids understand the material is the way to get that viewership, rather than making it fun and interesting to watch a second or third time.
Yeah, the focus there seems to be, they keep saying, on just identifying children's needs and meeting their needs, and that's the secret to success. But I don't know that a child who is handed an iPad in the backseat of a van is going to open it up and, just when it's their job to come up with their own entertainment to watch, as is so often what happens now for little kids. I don't know that they're going to say, well, let me think about what my needs are, where the gaps are in my understanding of the world. And I'm going to focus on finding the content that directly speaks to my needs as a child. Like, I think it's just going to be, this looks fun. And it's going to be going back to what they know. And so if you're not going to make something that's fun enough to make kids choose to watch it, then you're going to have to rely on parents choosing to put it on. And they don't seem that invested in keeping the parents interested either in any way. And I think that this announcement of, well, we're pushing Big Bird to the background, and Bert, and Ernie, and Snuffy, and Oscar, and the Count, that's going to make their adult fan base, to the extent to which they still have one, and they do, they really do, they have a big one, they truly do. But I think a lot of people are going to say, all right, so I can check out of this show then.
Yeah, and I also feel it's a weird goal to either make something for kids or something for parents. You should just make something really good. And I think most of the children's stories that have lasted a long time, if you look at something like Ramona, I loved Ramona when I was little. And I remember reading it and being like, this author gets me. It's like the first time I've read something where somebody gets me. And I was so excited to share it with my daughter. And when I shared it with my daughter, she also loved it. And I was like, see, she just knows children. Then we ended up getting like the whole series and listened to it over and over in the car. And what I found was that my husband and I were laughing because the parents say funny things that I didn't even pick up on as a kid. I was just like so into it. And I realized in kind of a heartbreaking way, it was like, oh no, she didn't just get me as a kid. She didn't just get kids. She got people and stories and what makes something interesting and dialogue and authenticity. And that is something that made me want to go back. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought she like understood me. And then got older, I was like, she understands life and characters and story. And that's what it is. And I think for anything that you look at, if you look at Roald Dahl, which has lasted forever, E.B. White stories, if you talk to them, they would say, I don't write down to children. I write up to children. I write a good story. Roald Dahl was like, I don't write children's literature. I write something and people tell me it's for kids. And I think that idea of like, oh, sorry, that was, I don't think that was Roald Dahl. That was someone else. Fact check me. Marie Sendak. But I mean, I just think it's that idea of like, if it's good, people are engaged and that's what they come back for. And I don't think necessarily it's going to matter if they know that Ernie is that one and Bert is that one. I think the idea that like, well, they don't know these characters' name. I mean, what's to know about the Count? He's purple and he counts. You know, like I don't need to know more than that. But he's entertaining and fun in what he does, and he's lasting and he sticks with you. I mean, that to me, I think is more important than making sure that you are hitting, you know, the 3-year-old audience or the like 35 to 45-year-old audience.
Yeah.
And you know what that makes me think of? And I've said this a whole lot of times now. Bluey.
Bluey, exactly.
But here's the thing, like some kids, so my kid would not watch Bluey at all. I wish he would. I wanted to watch Bluey, but no. So some kids will just watch what they want to watch. And so yes, Bluey is obviously proven funny for kids and adults, and yet still there are certain kids who don't want to watch it. And so Sesame kind of also needs to accept that fact.
Yeah.
But I think the more characters you have for people to identify with, the more opportunities you have to bring people in. I mean, if you're going to talk about feelings, getting rid of Telly maybe, or, you know, pushing Telly in the background may not be, you know, the best thing. Or if like the Grouch, I mean, you have to have space for grouchiness. Everybody has that Grouch inside them. And I think it's important to acknowledge that too, and not just the adorable and the cute. And also, if you want to raise your kid's age, if you make the main character, Elmo, 3.5 years old, it's going to be, I think, like at least Big Bird he's 6 or whatever. But when you change that focus to 3.5-year-old and he's now the main character, you lose, as kids find out the kids' ages, you know, or the Muppets' ages, or just recognize that is a younger character, it's going to be harder to have those older kids watching because they're going to, like, you know, relegate it to the babyish pile.
Yeah. I think to your point about the characters and how you need to have a lot of different characters that express different feelings and just different ways of being a person, I would say that they have introduced so many different characters over the past few years whose primary personality trait is happy. And besides that, it's the other qualities that they just want out of all of the children watching at home, like curious, brave, like it's just kind of the same handful
You see a lot of character bios and they all say like, so-and-so loves playing with their friends and singing songs and dancing and playing games. That applies to a lot of them.
Yes, they all do. That's the thing. And so beyond that, they come up with specific things that are not character traits, that are profile details, that are this character loves butterflies, and this character loves soccer, and this character likes comic books.
Cooking with his dad.
Yes. It's just a list of likes, a list of interests.
Right.
And I get why they think that, because if you look at Cookie Monster, he loves cookies, right? That's his thing. But what's interesting about Cookie Monster is not the fact that he loves cookies. It's the way that he loves cookies. That's what's interesting. He loves
them to a lethal degree.
Yeah. Like, it's his relationship to the things he likes and how he expresses himself that's funny and engaging about Cookie Monster, not the fact that he has a like. And so many of these other characters performed by incredibly talented people, but you can tell that they're the product of curriculum to a much greater degree than a lot of these early characters that just kind of emerged, in part because their personality is happy, curious, and likes to sing with their friends, and likes X, has an interest in Y, sometimes reads about Z.
That kind of goes to like, because someone was talking about the Frank Oz discussions that he had at the Museum of the Moving Image, and one of the things he brought up was how they started with character. And so that, to me, that this is an illustration of when you don't start with character. You're starting with curriculum, as you said, and then you're trying to build a character off of the curriculum rather than coming up with a character and then finding how it fits into the curriculum.
Right. At this point, I keep half expecting there to be an episode in which one of their educational specialists just comes on screen disguised as a new Muppet, just in a bad Muppety costume, like, "Hi, I'm your new Muppet friend. I'm 3.5 years old, and my name, it's Jeff. I am not an educational specialist for children." All right, someone bring in the whiteboard, bring in the desk. All right, today we're going to have so much fun, kids, because we're going to talk about dance. That's right, we're going to talk about dance. Wham! Slams the curriculum folder on the table, this massive binder. All right, let's flip through to page 273. I'm a kid like you, and we're having so much fun. I'm so happy and curious about all that we're going to learn about. I watched a few episodes of the previous season, and I really liked the episode focused on Rosita, on where she's on a basketball team and her basketball coach misheard her name and keeps calling her Rosie instead of Rosita, and she has to find the courage to speak up and say, actually, but my name is not Rosie, it's Rosita, and it's important to me. There is nothing funny in that episode. Not a bit, not a joke, not a bit. I don't care. I insist it's good television and very watchable because it's clearly serving a curricular function, but it's like a genuine story where it's like, oh yeah, I get this character's perspective and what the drama is here and how, to a kid, it is pretty scary to have to approach an adult authority figure with a correction, and you don't know how that's going to go. And I thought that this episode actually grappled with that in a human way. Like, it all comes from a very, very grounded human place. And that, for me, counts for a heck of a lot more than when we get a show that feels like it's entirely the product of a curriculum, except where they have forced in a bunch of jokes to try to keep pulling your attention back in.
I remember an interesting conversation. Rosemary Trulio, is that the
Trulio,
the curriculum person, and they had a chat with her and Norman Stiles, who was a writer for a long time. So you had the two sort of bringing their various viewpoints, and
this was at Momi, right?
It was at Momi, and it I think what it highlighted was there's always been this tension. And I feel like maybe in the past they were able to have more give and take. It wasn't just like get a given that the curriculum was going to win out. Maybe if it was funny enough, interesting enough, or quirky enough, and everyone loved it and they were just having fun, they would go ahead and go with it and let the curriculum drop a little in that instance. And then I think there was a little bit more compromise, and it feels like maybe things have just skewed a little too far one way and left behind some of the because obviously you have writers and talented people on there, and sometimes you have to like get out of the way and let them do their thing and create something wonderful instead of trying to confine it too much from the beginning. Let it play and then maybe cut it down, but don't stifle all the creativity from the get-go.
I think now is probably a good time to move over to Disney, because I think you put that very well. That was a very nice bow on the Sesame Street conversation. So if we look
We're going to Disney?
We're going to Disney!
You're paying for us to go to Disney!
Yeah, that's right. We're going to get there in 2026 to go to Muppet Vision 3D. That's my plan. Nothing will go wrong with that. So about the Muppet Vision 3D news.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that they announce Muppet Vision's closure with the news of a new Muppet attraction that will presumably come with filming new footage, probably with recording new music with the Muppets, and boy, did we not care. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm sure some people really cared, but when I was looking around at the Muppet fan community, I didn't hear a heck of a lot of, oh, but I'm excited about the
Rockin Roller Coaster,
about the new version of Rockin Roller Coaster. I guess it's not a new attraction, really, but it's sort of a new attraction. And I just didn't hear it at all. It seems like all of the focus was on what was lost.
It was taken away. Yeah.
And
well, I think people...
Was that wrong, or is that a good assessment of the situation? Because I can't find it in me to feel like I should feel positively about it.
Well, I think part of what drove that is just that people know Muppet Vision 3D, and especially it was Jim Henson's last project. People have a lot of like feelings about it, which they should, because it's great. Whereas the roller coaster, the Rockin' Roller Coaster, at the moment is just a piece of concept art, and so I think
Mhm.
is not that you're not going to have the same feelings about it.
It's about it's about the same as, a whole new Muppet special on TV versus, oh boy, the Muppets are going to be on Holy Moly.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's going to be great. It's amazing that Muppet Vision lasted for 35 years. It's sort of insane that like this Muppet special
Mhm.
ran for 35 years continuously every day
Yeah, in a
uh,
theater, and
in
people
a
kept
theater.
watching it.
Yeah. One thing that's funny about Muppet Vision 3D is it's all about how great 3D film is. Like that's the entire, if you want the curriculum for that piece, it's wow, 3D. And it feels like the audience kind of went through that already, how cool 3D movies are, and then we
Uh,
kind of got over it. And
you mean in the 1950s?
yeah, in the
I think we
1950s.
got over it in the 1950s.
Yeah. So it's kind of like making a Disney attraction about how great DVDs are,
Right.
and then like expecting it to run forever and ever and ever and ever and never change. It's not going to happen.
No, no, no. You don't understand, Danny. All the people are lining up to hear Waldo C. Graphic talk about Disney Fast Play. Have you heard about Disney Fast Play?
This is the ultimate Where's Waldo?
I'm not gonna lie. I think Waldo in 2025 it's a little embarrassing.
Ooh.
His CG is so old and dated
Mhm.
and bad. The amount of polygons in Waldo in 2025 is probably the same amount in like one of the flames on Lumiere in Mickey's PhilharMagic. The amount of CPU power for
Right.
both of those things is equivalent.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I mean, it's quaint, and I think a lot of the old-timey quaint things that show their age they're not sticking around forever at the parks, and we couldn't have expected this to stick around forever. I'm glad that it seems like the folks in Imagineering still really like and respect this property.
Mm.
The fact that they
Because
announced...
the Muppets are under Imagineering.
Right. They like them. They like
We
these
own
guys
them.
that they have. Yes, they like what they have. And what was I going to say?
Something about crochet.
Yeah, about the crocheting. Danny, I was hoping you could say more about that.
There's a little Rizzo that's
Mhm.
super cute. You can make Phenomenon, the
Aw.
snouts. It's a really kind of impressive number of characters and really kind of depth. And the photos of them are super, super cute. It's a great thing. The really gross thing, I think, is that I bet they're gonna smash up that Miss Piggy fountain
Mhm.
and then they're gonna sell little chunks of it back to us
Yeah,
as collectibles.
that is what they did with, for those who don't get the reference, that is what
Yeah.
they did with the hot air balloon that was on top of the Muppet Vision 3D building. They broke it and sold us the little pieces as collectibles. By gosh.
And they did it with like one of Waldorf's shirts, I think, when they closed
Oh,
the one in
weird.
Disneyland as little pieces on a pin.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was very strange marketing. So unfortunately, I think that's where that's going. The
But
Rocket
there's
Roller Coaster that does
there's
seem
plenty of
cool though.
space in front of Rock and Roller Coaster, isn't there?
Right,
You
that's
could
the thing.
move
Is
it.
they justifiably could move it to the Rock and Roller Coaster area if they wanted to, if they're invested in it. But then I say this not knowing how plumbing works. And so there may be some expert out there who can tell me, actually, that sounds doable to you as a layperson, but in fact, it would cost $3 million. Imagineering did a test, they ran the numbers. Up now it's $4 million because it's cold outside. That's how these things go. We don't know what's possible.
JD, do you realize that this podcast has a connection to the Rock and Roller Coaster attraction?
Oh,
No, I don't.
You're not aware of this. I yesterday, just to get all psyched up for being on the show today, I listened to the previous episode, which was a year ago, so the winter 2024 episode. Matthew Gatos predicted this, exactly this.
What?
He says, I wrote down the quote. You were asking like, what would you like to see in the parks? And he talks about one thing, and then he says, and then obviously the other secondary one would be having the Electric Mayhem Rock and Roller Coaster, which, when a
Right.
TV show about them gets canceled, maybe isn't the best omen that might happen someday, but you'd still love to see it because who the hell listens to Aerosmith?
That's right. I remember something for the past few months. It's been bugging me. Like someone said something about how Aerosmith is irrelevant and connected it to Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem
Yep.
and Rock and Roller Coaster, and I couldn't think of what it could possibly, like, on what podcast that would have been. It did not occur to me that it could have been
It
my
was
own.
yours. Yep. And so Matthew Gatos, I believe, is a prophet.
Right.
Oh,
And
Obviously.
we need to get him more on the show because he'll tell us what's happening in the coming years.
And what
Do
I
we
think
want to
that...
know though? Do we want
Oh,
to
yeah,
know?
maybe not.
Yeah, actually, that's a bad idea. We're not going to be able to go on if we know what's coming. Dear Lord.
I don't
no,
think-
but
I don't think it'll matter because JD's just gonna forget it.
it's true. Very, very true. There's other stuff going on right now in the world.
this is a
Not
weird
always thinking about Muppets these
Cassandra's
days.
like reversal situation.
I think that what that goes to show is that if you study history enough, you can predict everything about the future. Right? That's what commitment has taught us. You just watch every Muppet thing in order.
Yeah.
And eventually you can see
You can see the
just
future.
having only gone up through the 80s through some Muppet babies, you can see what's going to happen many years later.
Will they move Gonzo's bathrooms? That's my question.
That's a good question.
Pizza Rizzo, we know, will be destroyed. Will we still
that-
have Gonzo's Royal Flush?
Is the whole area going to be Monsters Inc. now? Is that the idea?
Yes. I think the justification was, well, these buildings are already standing up, and it's easier for us to just retheme a big city area than tear down another building and build a new Monsters Inc. from ash.
Are we looking forward to the possibility of a new Muppet recording of a song from the roller coaster? Is that
Sure.
interesting?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know Rock and Roller Coaster very well because I'm on the West Coast. I'm a Disneyland guy.
Mhm.
But I looked it up and read about it. And there's apparently like the whole pre-show should be pretty impressive, I would assume, that they're gonna make new things. It'll be cool to have like a new Muppet Plays.
I mean, I think other than, the whole Rainbow Connection thing, I think a lot of the very strongest stuff that Muppets have done in the last many years is music related.
Yeah.
All those songs from the Electric Mayhem show were terrific. That Mr. Blue Sky video they did before that was great.
Yeah.
Unpack Your Adjectives by Kermit. That was pretty cute, I guess.
Well, and Bohemian Rhapsody, everybody
Bohemian-
really loved.
And the songs from the movies,
Yeah.
the ones that have Muppets in them, are
Wait, what?
pretty good.
Wait, did we just jump back to 2010 or am I forgetting something?
What do you mean?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
That was 2009.
That was 2009. That's right. Good Lord, I forgot. Okay, that was that long ago. Wow.
Well, I mean, as you know, the Muppets are 70 years old this year.
That's true. So the Muppets are turning 70 this year. And so far we know that because they have posted about it on social media.
Specifically, Facebook and possibly nowhere else. Is that the case? Like
It's on
they
the
left Twitter.
Instagram.
Yeah, I was going to say it's on the
Instagram
Instagram
as well. Okay.
I mean, that's technically
Which
Facebook.
it's all
Right.
still meta. It's all still
and Threads, which is also
meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
The Threads still exists?
yep.
Okay. Wow,
I check every now and again.
Does anything
Still
happen
going.
there?
I have no idea.
All right. That sounds about right. But the Muppets are posting there. So if you want to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Muppets, you can do that there.
Go there on
You can
Facebook.
do that by listening to the Muppets 70 podcast that many of you have hosted very funny episodes of.
One question that I have as far as like this as a marketing platform is like just drawing attention to how old and worn out the franchise is. Like saying it's the 70th year. We like is this the moment where we say, hey everybody, the Muppets are septuagenarians?
It does
know.
highlight that they're old, and there is a risk of highlighting that they are a product of a totally different culture. and that it could raise the question once again of, are these characters even still relevant? And so, but also it's like, it's a big anniversary. They got to celebrate it. This is the kind of thing that I don't know. It's
Is it-
important.
It is feeling like more of a nostalgia grab than it had to be because, the Muppets Mayhem came out in 2023. They could easily, when pointing to pictures and videos and fun things for Muppets point to that as much as they're
Mhm.
pointing to the original Muppet Show. Like this week, they're celebrating the week we're recording this, they are celebrating Janice.
Mhm.
And so many people are talking about on social media, having watched Muppets Mayhem, but the main account, the Muppets
Right.
account, is only referring mostly to the Muppet Show
Mhm.
or things that people are nostalgic for, as opposed to
Mhm.
stuff that is more current, more exciting, more, hey, they're still relevant.
But also, that stuff is reliable. It's what people have seen. Yeah, you're right. It's a nostalgia grab. But it also helps recenter the franchise a little bit because you almost have to direct casual fans to core Muppet things so that they can fully understand and appreciate everything else.
Right, but why can't they do both?
That's true.
Because how
You're
are
right.
they going? How is it marketing? How is it good marketing? Because that's all this is. They're companies. We shouldn't really like depend upon them for our happiness.
Sure.
However, like if they're gonna do it, grab them by their nostalgia and then throw them into 2023 and say, yeah, they're still making stuff and it's
Right.
still funny and
Mhm.
still enjoyable. So watch it.
Yes, for
Available on
some,
Disney Plus.
for a number of people I have heard from, that show is enjoyable. Yes, that is factually true. Katie Lynn, I do want to focus in on something you said. You said we're not supposed to rely on these companies for
Mhm.
happiness.
I didn't understand that at all.
I guess I
I
have a
feel like if
genuine.
this very loosey-goosey podcast that we're doing
Mhm.
here has had any theme at all, it is the enshittification of things that we love.
Mhm.
It's been throughout, the Sesame conversation. It's been throughout Disney taking something apart that people have enjoyed for the last 30 years. It's been about the degradation of our social media lives.
Mhm.
So I
But my
And
question
that's
for you,
and
and this
that's
is
why that's why we hold on to the official Muppet Crochet Amigurumi book.
Which
yes, it
sounds
is.
amazing,
It's really,
really.
really good. You guys should look it up. I don't know how to spell
I don't know. I,
amigurumi.
I think that
Um,
falls under the same problem that Drake was talking about. You just have to follow the directions. Where do you get to do your own thing?
Man, that's a good
Just
point.
follow the curriculum.
So, Katie Lynn, I think my question for you then is how do you suggest one approach fandom of the Muppets in the time we're living in 2025, circa Trump coming back into office, like in this moment? What would you advise to people in terms of how they approach Muppets so as to not depend on them too much for happiness and to take the right things away from them? I
See,
am I
I
am
see people leaning forward as if I'm going to have
Tell
wisdom
us,
here.
please.
Well, you wrote an article about how the Muppets should be our discomfort watch, right?
I
Mhm.
did.
And
It got no response. It was great.
it was a good article, and so I'm giving you the chance to use people's Muppet nostalgia to direct them to your new article that you wanted to get a larger response. You see what I'm doing?
Thank you,
You see
JD.
how it's great marketing?
I, I haven't done a ton of thinking about this because it, it's not something that would necessarily further me as a human being. But like, what are we doing right now? So Muppet fandom has clearly brought us all together. We don't all live in the same place, but we are making something that we love. And I think that goes back to what the core of the Muppets was, is that
Mm.
it brings people together. It brings joy when they create a joint project that they're passionate about. And
Mhm.
so I feel like people can use that from the Muppets in terms of, they're making something that they love. It doesn't necessarily have to be Muppet related,
Hmm.
but to know that they are meeting like-minded people, that they're creating, that they are bringing joy and passion to their lives. Like, this is what I think fandom can do and what it should do, rather than sitting back waiting for the next
Mhm.
feeding from the company that says,
Right.
okay, here is your tiny bit of news, here is your tiny bit of hope.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Please keep tuning in for the next bit that we're going to feed you. And then once you get that, like, devolving into speculation and bickering back and forth as to what things mean and why they're doing this and how we can stop them and petitioning them. So like relying on the companies for that happiness is not creating happiness as far as I can see.
Right. Right. Yeah. Which is so many thoughts about that, even though I know this is supposed to be the Great Muppet Fandom Panel, so I'm supposed to be focusing on the panelists more, even though in this episode, clearly I have just decided to...
Now you've got an agenda, it's fine.
hosted with an agenda to say all of the things that I would have wanted to say on previous episodes and in all of the articles that I want to write that I don't have time to. Sorry. But you are absolutely right. When you look at the history of the Muppet fan community, as I've been doing a lot lately, I've been thinking a lot about the history of this weird online community. A lot of its best moments have come when there was nothing good going on with any of the companies. Like in dire situations, that's when you see, generally, historically, we create, we produce cool stuff and find new ways to connect with one another. New projects emerge from us being silly. And right now, I keep expecting that or hoping for that, but then I open up any of my apps to see my Muppet fan friends, and our whole social infrastructure is not working. Like, I can't find Muppet posts on X, and I don't see many people posting on Blue Sky. There's so much going on the ToughPigs Discord that it often, to me, feels like just a big wall of text, and I don't know how to get involved there. It's not my medium, it's not how I socialize, and that's fine. Like, if it's working for other people, then that's great, but I'm used to having a lot of different ways that we could connect and socialize with others, and we're in this weird time where all of the social networks are getting kind of poisoned in one way or another, if not at risk of being banned. I don't know how we're gonna do the next era of Muppet fandom that could be anything like the Muppets Twitter moment a few years ago, where everyone just started chatting and creating little things, or anything like the era leading up to the 2011 Muppet movie, where you had ToughPigs, the Muppet Mindset, the Muppet Wiki, the Muppet Cast, and all of this new stuff showing up on YouTube. And it felt like it was kind of an oligopoly of institutions, but institutions that generally raised up the thoughts and interests of fans, brought new content to light, brought new information. It felt to me like a very elevating time for the fan community, and I would say that time around 2021, 2022, even more so. I'm having a hard time seeing where or how the next one's going to come about. And so I don't quite know how to do precisely the thing that Katilyn Miller is talking about, except keep doing some ToughPig stuff sometimes, you know?
Well, those things do still exist. ToughPigs and Muppet Wiki, like you say.
That's true.
I think actually...
And they're still good, by the way, and everyone should read them.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
I think a lot of the activity is happening with podcasts. Where we've got, all of our podcasts go moving right along. We've got Fraggle Talk. We've got the Great Muppet Fandom Panel. There's a lot of creativity going on there.
That last one's a question. Maybe we got that one.
Yeah.
Who knows what this is?
As well as Muppeturgy and Commitment. That there are too many Muppet podcasts that I don't have the time all the time to listen to all of them, which is amazing. Which I just find that's in sort of this art form where there has been this kind of blossoming of creativity and fun.
But it's also an art form that is very good at showcasing a lot of thoughts from a relatively small number of people.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating and concerning when that's one of the few remaining forms that we have. Even something like ToughPigs, while the ToughPigs has been producing so much work that is among its best over the past years, like just the past couple of years, there's still kind of this sense of, oh wow, the last thing standing from long ago in the Muppet fan world that's still thriving is something that's driven by a small handful of voices. Like, it's been diversified to some extent in terms of the voices that are being elevated, but only to some very limited extent. For those of you just tuning in, this is the Drudgery Report from the Great Muppet Fandom Panel.
I didn't really like Jim Henson Idea Man.
Oh, right. Shoot. We meant to talk about Jim Henson Idea Man.
Yeah, no, I wasn't crazy about it at all. I'll tell you why. There was all this color grading on it. I don't know if other people, I don't know how, I couldn't talk to anybody about it because it upset me so much. They took Rita Moreno, who was so lovely, and they put her in this dark concrete box.
Yep.
Lit, I believe, by cigarette lighters. And so there was that, and then all of the clips and everything that they show it was like this sort of Zack Snyder move of like dampening all of the color down to sort of a beige. They also showed a clip from the Orson Welles show, which I don't understand. But
so weird fixation on that Orson Welles show.
Relied heavily on Orson Welles.
Weird.
It never aired.
Can I say something about that?
But just the idea that like that you're gonna take the Muppets. It's the same with Zack Snyder and like Justice League. Like, how does a person get to the point where they say superheroes, but in black and white?
Right. Yeah. Shane?
Can I just say, so I saw that documentary at the Museum of the Moving Image, and every time those Orson Welles clips popped up, like throughout, the first time people laughed, the second time people laughed more, and then the third time they were like, yeah! They were so excited when that kept happening.
How would you characterize that audience, Shane?
And they are enthusiastic about our great American filmmakers and their somewhat misguided pursuits.
He just wanted to be Drew Barrymore, the Drew Barrymore show before it was Drew Barrymore.
Oh, God. I don't want to. I'm just picturing him on a couch getting really close to somebody, and I don't want to see that.
Maybe the idea is that someone who doesn't know any better could think, well, this gives Jim Henson and the Muppets more clout and legitimacy. They're being interviewed by Orson Welles, maker of Citizen Kane. And it's like, well, at this point, it's Orson Welles, maker of commercials for fish sticks. So, I don't know, gang. That doesn't actually make it look like the high point of the Muppets' career was all that spectacular if this is who was interviewing them. Oh, dear.
I think with the Idea Man documentary, a lot of people were saying, oh, they didn't talk about this, and they didn't include this, and they didn't talk to this person. And the whole point of a documentary is to tell a story. And that means excluding so many other possible stories. So this was Ron Howard and his vision and what he thought was important. But that does not mean that there isn't more, that there aren't still more stories to tell and fun things to explore. And, if the story didn't, if the story with Orson Welles at the center did not appeal to you, obviously we do not have access to the Jim Henson archive like these people did, but it is perfectly possible to learn those stories through other means at this point. Muppet Wiki. Just read the entire Muppet Wiki and
oh yeah, easy to do.
All 46,000 articles?
Woohoo!
You phrased that as a question, as though I would know.
It's approximately there.
What are you going to do when you hit 50?
Oh, I'm trying so hard.
Yeah, you guys don't know.
You got to have Joseph Gordon-Levitt come and just walk along the Muppet Wiki and say, I remember this. This was good.
Oh, we can get Yvette Nicole Brown. Yvette Nicole Brown is gettable.
We'll start a bake sale.
Yeah, she shows up.
And she's just going, wow, look, there's the page for Singing in the Rain and the Sony plush.
It's going to be great. They made a gay episode of Fraggle Rock.
They sure did.
That was the other thing this year, which I did not have on my bingo card of things that would ever happen.
Danny, thank you for providing structure to this episode. I do
so
suppose it needed some.
Somebody has to get in there.
Well, this was the thing, is I wasn't sure if we were even going to get to Back to the Rock, because it's not a very recent thing that I forgot happened within the past year. But the second season of Back to the Rock did happen within the past year, within the time since we last did an episode of this show. Mm-hmm. I never know what to say about that show, so I'm not going to say anything else about it.
Oh, dag.
else wants to talk about Back to the Rock?
I feel like I have talked about it a whole lot already. It was quite the focus, especially during June, Pride Month. Becca Petunia and I had a few articles out there talking about Fraggle Rock, talking with people on Fraggle Rock. Joe did a whole podcast about it. Come on, guys.
That's true. You know what? It probably has been talked about mostly enough. But Danny, since you brought it up, if you have anything else that you want to add, this is your moment.
This is my moment. It's just that fact that they did a queer episode.
Well,
Just
you've expressed that
blows my mind.
you're surprised by it. Are you happy about it? Are you happy with how it went?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. It was a gorgeous episode.
It's been
It's up for
nominated
an
for
Emmy.
awards. Exactly.
It was the one that I remember, and so therefore it's the one that I'm talking about. But I have been impressed with just like how accurately they have recreated the world of Fraggle Rock. That's like the most boring possible take. But I do like it as a show.
Do you like that they have made it more colorful than the original show was?
I do. I like that very much.
Yeah, it wasn't dimmed down like the
Yeah.
documentary or Muppets Mayhem. They let it be full Technicolor.
I like that song by Brett Goldstein. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Do we think that Back to the Rock has solved the comedy versus curriculum problem that Sesame Street has been struggling to figure out? Like, is Back to the Rock an example of, hey, Sesame, you want to see how to do this in a way that's engaging and still teaches? Look here.
I think I've certainly laughed more at the new Fraggle Rock than any new Sesame episode.
I mean, of course, its curricular goals are entirely different and much looser and aimed at an older audience. They're it's not going to be as strict by its very nature. And yet, Back to the Rock is, I would say, a pretty darn messagey, didactic show that is very much telling you its thoughts pretty clearly and loudly. You come out of each episode knowing basically what you're supposed to think.
There was an echo chamber, an actual echo chamber.
And, I don't hate that. I really, to me, I don't think all the messages need to be hidden. Like, if you want to do something that's on the nose, to me, that is not a crime. But then for me, what happens is when I watch the new show, I start to think a lot about, all right, what is this trying to say? Is it something that should be said, and how well is it saying it? Like, I start to focus on the messaging and what the message is a lot more than just the comedy. So even when I'm laughing at Back to the Rock, as I do, it's a very funny show, anything where I'm like, oh, I would have written that differently, really leaps out at me in a way that's not true of the original series at all.
Also, there was a Richard Hunt biography this year.
Oh my God, was that this year?
That
Holy
was this
macaroni.
year.
There was, yes.
Completely forgot
I feel
about
like
that.
I feel like I'm the little Jiminy Cricket of this episode.
No,
like,
I mean,
on,
this is why you started
cheer up.
Muppet Wiki. You just remember all of the Muppet things
I
in
don't
chronological
actually.
order.
Actually, it is so funny that you say that, because the reason I can do this is I went to the 2024 page on Muppet Wiki and saw like, well, I don't want to talk about these crappy Sesame, let's talk about divorce books. Nobody's
Why
ever
not?
heard of that just because it's on Muppet Wiki. But the Richard Hunt biography is super good though.
Yeah.
I don't know if people have read it. Have you read it?
I read it.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Yes, and I don't have any very critical thoughts, but he grew up about 15 minutes away from where I am. So it's just nice to read a book about someone important in the world of things that I like.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, oh, I went to that restaurant, or oh, I know where that high school is, or oh, I've been to that park. And it
that's
just
cool.
pleased that little lizard part of my brain.
I loved seeing the Muppets through a different viewpoint. I feel like it's always Jim Henson, sometimes Frank Oz, highlighting the growth of the company and how things went through a different character. I just thought highlighted things, pulled out something different for me, and focused on stories that we haven't heard before. And I think in the way that Katilyn was talking about the everything you make is only from it's one story, it's one perspective, it's one
Right.
thing. I think often with the Jim Henson stuff, it is kind of the same stories over and over, but told from a different angle. And this was like just shifting things a little bit and looking at something else entirely. And I enjoyed that aspect. I mean, the access, of course, to the people is amazing. And I think presenting it as a way to talk about Richard Hunt also pulled different stories from them and brought up new things. So I liked that that aspect of the biography.
It was nice to hear about him as a guy. Like he wasn't the head of the company. He wasn't this creative. Well, he was, but he wasn't like the creative wizard behind everything. He was just, he was just a dude from New Jersey.
A part of though, like all of these interesting things.
Yeah, and I went to a book event after it came out in New York where his sister, it was a small, very cramped little bookstore, and his sister was there. And the audience was like 5 people were Muppet fans, and the rest of the people were like people that they knew or were family friends. And they were just talking about him like, oh yeah, he loved these kinds of donuts. And oh yeah, there was this one time we were like pinching pennies outside the 7-Eleven. And that was just so fascinating to listen to.
Wow. That sounds
I don't think he actually pinched pennies outside, but that's just a example of the kind of thing.
Right. You're a liar, and so this is what you do when you come on Muppet podcasts, and everyone needs to know and understand that.
Yes.
The last thing that I have thought to mention, by which I mean you all suggested this in the chat, was new physical media. On 2 accounts. One, the Dark Crystal extended soundtrack coming to CD, a 3 CD set. And 2, we got some Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock on Blu-ray. Yes, Blu-ray, still alive. I wish that we were getting more stuff on Blu-ray all the time. We have a lot of the classic library on Blu-ray, but I want to see like Sesame Street stuff on Blu-ray. So it's kind of nice to see one of these franchises is still invested in releasing some stuff in this format. And means that even as streaming services do all the wacky things that streaming services do now, where suddenly they say, hey, everybody, Hulu is on me. And it's like, what? You're another streaming service. How can Hulu be on you? What does that mean? I don't know. Not having to worry about that, just being able to have the thing physically, it's pretty nice. Thoughts?
I don't support Blu-ray releases of non-film media, like things on videotape. So I don't know how good a Sesame Street Blu-ray, unless it was the high-def stuff, would look.
But I think still.
Oh, you'd prefer it on 4K. Is that what you're saying, Shane?
Not even 8K.
Okay.
100K.
3D TVs?
Yes, I want that pinball to look like it's coming right at my face.
I think the people are demanding more content that celebrates 3D. It's this really exciting new technology. It speaks to the present moment. It's very present. That's how I would describe 3D.
The present moment thinks it's talking to that. It's actually talking to me.
Ah. Okay. Is there anything... All right, edit point. Is there anything else that we want to cover in this episode that I should try to segue to? Or have we said enough?
Let's just crash into Muppet history.
Oh my God.
Crash and burn, and then no one will ever listen to the podcast again.
We're just end on that.
No,
That's the last conversation.
Actually, no. Let's record about Muppet history, but edit it out and keep it for Patreon subscribers.
Yes.
Let's just keep it for our sake.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, do we keep all this in?
Yes.
Okay, good. Muppet history is another thing that I don't even know how to have a conversation about. It's rough. It's a rough time in the fan community where a lot of things that felt sort of like institutions is maybe the wrong word, but things that felt kind of big and stable and ongoing suddenly are shaken. Like with Muppet Vision 3D, it's like, this was the building that was always going to be there. How often did we actually go? Maybe not often, but it was there. Right. Just Sesame Street, just the continuing existence of Sesame Street. It's like, well, it's always been nice to know that it's going to be there, even if none of us actually want to watch what it is. there's something about Muppet history where it's like, well, it's an outpost to the normies, and I guess Muppet fandom should have one, and it's there. I may not be accessing its content very often or checking in or really have it in my feeds much at all, but it's there. And now it's ruined, and I mean, for me, I would not want it to be there. The rest of the fan community responded to the situation very well, I thought, and that was very nice to see. But the whole situation is still really unpleasant to talk about or think about.
One thing that I think is good that kind of came out of the discussion about it was it really reinforced our values as a fan community. And that includes I always hated Muppet history because it was so much about themselves and was never about anybody else in the fan community. They never like retweeted ToughPigs or Muppet Wiki or Commitment or like Moving Right Along or like any of they never sort of shone a light on anything. And for them, it was really about making money in a way that, for literally everybody else in the fandom, it's about giving stuff away for free.
Right.
Muppet Wiki is about like taking all the things that we can find and then putting it on display.
I think for me, it's been important to focus on precisely what the problem at hand is when talking about Muppet history. The problem at hand was abusive misconduct. That's the issue. And so I get a little uncomfortable, I guess, when something that serious becomes an opportunity to focus on all the other reasons why, we always knew that this was such an annoying page because it wasn't sharing what other people made or whatever it is. Like, I understand your feelings and I relate to that very much. But that does sort of become the dominant thing in the conversation is, was this ever the right way to be a Muppet fan? And it's like, I actually don't care what anybody's way of being a Muppet fan is, or if someone like does this to make money, whatever it is, like, yeah, it would be great to get income from all the Muppet things that I've done that I put hours and hours and hours of work into. If I could, it would be nice. I don't do it for that reason, and I don't think Muppet history necessarily started for that reason, because certainly at the start there was no way to guess that something like that could be profitable, I don't think. But nevertheless, like the problem here is the problem here.
Right.
And I always want to make sure that we never lose sight of that. Again, your point's valid, Danny. But yeah, what we focus on right now is the tricky thing. You mentioned values, though, how this has highlighted the values of the Muppet fan community. And that's true. But it's also another topic where it's like, well, that gets us talking about Muppet values, and where I tend to disagree, I think, with a lot of the rest of my ToughPigs colleagues, is I'm not convinced that the Muppets are usually all that focused on values, or that that's the main reason why we like them. I'm not sure that we should be trying to force a bunch of really products from companies, which is what this media is, to be our moral guidance. And I'm not saying that anyone's necessarily saying that exactly, but for me, this is a moment to reflect on, well, how can we connect the things that we're inclined to focus on? If we must keep focusing on Muppets because we're Muppet fans and we're wired like this, and this is what it's going to be, how can we find ways to channel that towards our values? Maybe that's not what it's made for. Maybe we're not getting our values from these Muppet things, but if we approach it selectively and find some things that are a good way to reconnect with our values, then I think that's good. And I think that that's a helpful, useful of fandom.
I have nothing profound to say.
You don't have to say something profound. You put the silly hat back on. Put your silly hat back on. That's such a silly hat, Shane. Oh, it gets me every time.
It is. It's really hurting my neck, though.
Oh, all right. Take it off.
I'll put on my silly neck brace.
It's even funnier than the hat.
Look at the way it spins.
Oh. Ooh.
I think it probably affected people more who were part of the Muppet tweet community. I really never on Twitter because that was not my scene, and was only starting to get a part of the new Muppet community on Blue Sky when all of this kind of fell apart.
Mm.
And so just like all of these other institutions that keep falling apart as situations arise, institutions and people acting deplorably, like it shakes you more depending on how much more investment you had in that person or thing. And so the upset, I mean, is absolutely genuine for people who Muppet history abused and sent inappropriate things to, and they have every right to feel the feelings that they have. And I am very proud of how the Muppet community came and supported them almost 100% in their favor and not in Muppet histories. So like, I think that is the biggest takeaway, but also again, with investing too much of your happiness in fallible institutions and people, like we have to find it in ourselves. And I hope, that we continue to learn this about the world and ourselves, and that we can definitely come together and make awesome things. Just, know that we'll be here for each other when something else comes along that makes us all sad.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that anyone wanted to mention quickly before I wrap up?
Did we mention the crochet book?
Yes, we did.
Have we pressured you to do these more than once a year? Because this...
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's just a lot to do. Well, so the reason why there was such a long gap between episodes was, well, there were several reasons, but one of the big ones was that I ended the last episode of the Great Muppet Fandom Panel saying I wanted to do something to help with the conversation, or lack thereof, about the neurodiversity of the Muppet fan community, which was something we didn't really know how to talk about, didn't know how to think about, and we didn't know how to handle it if there was a situation in which someone talked about it inappropriately in the way that was very directly harmful. There was kind of no conversation to be had about that for a lot of folks, especially, I think, who are older members of the Muppet fan community. And so for me, I felt this pressure to get on top of that project before I circled back to Great Muppet Fandom Panel. Because Great Muppet Fandom Panel, in general, not one of our most popular podcasts. Not by a lot. And
Until now.
And so I'm like, I can put that on the back burner. But then it turns out that actually the whole thing breaks if we don't do it regularly. So if I have any time or energy for it, I will try to do it more often. That part will probably get cut out of the show, but maybe not. Maybe someone was curious about where the show's been. It's conceivable. It's plausible. But they've had other good ToughPigs podcasts to listen to this whole time.
But also go read the Muppet Beacon, because they're fantastic articles.
Yeah, and really interesting discussion coming out of them too. I really enjoyed seeing those.
Well, thank you. Have not published nearly as much as I wanted to in that series, but we've had the gift of Adam's article in the summer, which the fact that article was going to come out, whether it was part of the Beacon project or not, for the Muppets from Space anniversary, meant, oh shoot, I'd better start that article series so that this can be part of it. And his article ended up giving me the name for the whole series, which I would not have thought of otherwise. That's such a beautiful piece that I highly recommend people read. I also highly recommend the piece from our anonymous contributor looking for jobs at the Magic Store, a truly unique ToughPigs article, unlike any other, that I think really captures the Muppet fan experience in a unique way. So, a plug for that project, briefly. Anyhow, panelists, friends, we've reached the end of another edition of the Great Muppet Fandom Panel, Drudgery Edition. That means it's time for me to ask the panelists where we can find them on the internet. Shane, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, right over there.
Okay. Katilyn, where can people find you on the internet?
I'll be a little more serious, because I am one of the admins of the aforementioned ToughPigs Discord. So
bragging over here.
I am a very important person.
Be careful or she'll kick you out, JD.
Oh, shoot. Yes. You are the most important person. All hail Katilyn Miller.
I could have been if I had signed in and sent the Zoom link. Everyone would be answering to me.
It's true. Drake, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on the Discord and Blue Sky, and yeah.
And people can read your articles at toughpigs.com.
ToughPigs.com, that's right.
Danny, where
Yes.
can people find you on the internet?
You can listen to the first season of the Fantastic Miss Piggy podcast on this very podcast feed. Just go back a little bit. That was 11 episodes, and they were all completely insane. And also, Muppet Pictures is my social media feed that is just for spreading pure joy in the world, posting pictures on X and on Facebook and on Blue Sky. And those are places that need, at least for the Muppet fans who are still on there, those are people that I love. And so that's where you can find me there.
And I gotta tell you, the Fantastic Miss Piggy podcast does live up to its name.
So much.
Season 2?
I am thinking and working on season 2. There's going to be one episode that I've decided, JD, is just called JD Has Thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, you and I have been...
That's going to be great.
You and I have been trying to figure out what my episode of that show would be for a long time, and that does sound like the simplest approach, even though it would be far too long and rambly.
I have figured it out, which is just that JD has thoughts that he wants to share. And they're brilliant, so look forward to that.
Aw, shucks. And now, a moment of spontaneous applause for our panel of Muppet experts. Thank you. If you enjoyed this program, we hope you'll consider supporting us on Patreon. Thank you to those of you who do so now. This ToughPigs Muppet Fan Podcast was executive produced by the ToughPigs Muppet Fan Podcast executive producer, Joe Hennis. Thanks to Kenny Durkin for our artwork, and thanks to Frank Oz, because it's always a good time to thank a Frank. For ToughPigs.com, this is JD Hansel reminding you, as I always do, of Jim Henson's motto, you'll never get out of the cube. Goodbye!
Yay.
You
Who's the
never will
Idea
get
Man?
out. You really will die here. Yeah, like Idea Man. My gosh. I think that the makers of Idea Man must have heard my podcast if they actually thought it made sense to tell the story of Jim Henson's life as the cube.
Box.
Oh my gosh. Could not believe it. What a gift to me that they made a documentary about the cube. Unfortunate that it's aesthetically the opposite of the cube, which is a very brightly lit space. Whereas
That's true.
This was shot in a dungeon. Oh dear. All right, I am going to stop the recording.
Are we still doing that thing where we all talk at the same time at the beginning?
Oh, no, I was not going to do that for this episode because it's laid back, man. It's Matt Vogel, man.
Well, we could just talk very mellowy.
Oh,
We could just say things
okay.
like, "Hey,
Hey,
it's snowing outside.
yeah, it's
Is
really
snowing
coming
outside.
down. It is snowing.
And my
outside.
blowers don't work, so shoveling is the way to go."
Oh, that's rough. And it's like a weird snow. It's got a weird texture to it.
Yeah, it's green. It's burning through my clothes.
Green is not a texture, Shane.
Well, it has a weird texture to it, and it's green, and it's burning through Shane's clothes. And all the snowflakes are wearing these very silly hats. They're so funny.
Did you know how much work that would have to be? The average snowfall is like at least 1,000. That's 1,000 unique hats.
Yeah, but if you want to know how to make those hats, there's a book all about crochet.
Crochet. Amigurumi. Did I actually get anybody else to say the word amigurumi?
I was afraid.
No,
I was also too scared.
I didn't understand it.
That was
Oh,
my secret competition inside my head. If I could say it long enough, I might get somebody else to say it.
That the secret word for the day was
Amigurumi.
A Amigurumi.
Mickey Rooney.
A Mickey Rooney.